What does freedom mean to you? Does it mean the freedom to choose? The freedom to have a family and raise your kids according to your own values? What about living a wild, adventurous life, experimenting with music, relationships, or art? What does freedom really mean? What if freedom meant something that only a few Americans still understood? What if it meant that your choices and your values were set by you, rather than by some politician in a far-off capital? Some people think we're only free to choose to live exactly how they live, by their moral code, or their narrow worldviews. But if liberty means anything, it means that you, and you alone, have the power to exercise your rights to which the laws of nature and nature's God granted you. It's time to put these principles back into action. It's time to restore the American dream, activate in our communities, and take our country back. It's time to wake up, America.
Good morning, rise in freedom, happy Halloween, and welcome to the Wake Up America show. I'm your host, Mr. Spooky Scary Skeleton. Nah, it's really me, AP. Don't be afraid. But maybe you should be a little freaked out by this story out of San Francisco. The strangest thing I ever did hear. Paul Pelosi, husband to Nancy Pelosi, just can't seem to stay out of trouble these days. An attack at his home by a madman has got everyone in the media pointing fingers at each other for whose ideology is to blame. Democrats say it's a MAGA Republican who attacked him. Republicans say it's a gay nudist with a sex fetish. And how are Elon Musk and Hillary Clinton evolved? We'll talk about that at the top of the show. Plus, race-based admissions, aka affirmative action, heads into the Supreme Court today. Will the conservative-leaning court overturn this race-based admissions policy? We'll discuss that at 7:22. And Jeremy Cady from Americans for Prosperity joins me to discuss why Missourians should vote no on the legalization of marijuana on the ballot this coming fall election. What's the matter, Jeremy? I thought you were a libertarian. We'll talk about that, and we'll talk about the midterms in general. And at 8 a.m., are we already in a recession? Former top White House economist under Trump, Vance Ginn, joins me at 8 a.m. to discuss the state of the economy. And at 8:30, what's the greatest danger that kids actually face on Halloween? We'll talk about all that and more on the Wake Up America show with Austin Peterson. Thank you so much for tuning in. All right, this is way too hot. I'm going to have to just... hold on. Let me just do my grand reveal here. Whew. Hi, good morning. Happy Halloween. Thank you so much for joining us on the show this morning. Glad to have you here. You can text the show today at 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. A couple of house cleaning things real quick. Number one, we are still doing a YouTube Blitz. So if you are capable of joining us over on YouTube, please feel free to do so at youtube.com/AP4Liberty. Seems my friend Quertias is over on Rumble, and he says all politicians should be visited at their homes. Be careful. That is likely to get you a visit from your home from the authorities. You can text the show again, 573-319-1586. We're going to continue these YouTube Blitz, I think, until we hit monetization. I think that's the way to go. Also, another household cleaning item here, just so you know, today is going to be the first monthly giveaway for our subscribers. So at the end of the show today, I'm going to pick someone at random to win an item from the shop, the AP for Liberty shop. So if you are a monthly subscriber to the show, you are entered automatically to win one of the items from the AP for Liberty shop website. And so today, at the end of the program, I'm going to go through the list and choose at random a person to win an item. So if you've been thinking about subscribing and helping to become a monthly Peterson's Patriot Pledge supporter, then today is the day. If you're watching us live this morning at 7:06 a.m. on Halloween day at 10:31 2022, then now is the good opportunity to do that. So you can have a chance to win a free item from the AP for Liberty Shop website by the end of the show. All right, cool. So there we go. Getting hammered in San Francisco. Boy, this was the weirdest thing ever. You must have seen this blown up over the weekend. The story about Nancy Pelosi's husband, Paul Pelosi, who was savagely attacked, beaten by a man who many are claiming, and the media immediately claimed that it was a MAGA attacker, that it was a Republican QAnon conspiracy theorist who attacked Paul Pelosi. What was interesting was that the backlash to this was swift, nearly immediate, when Elon Musk tweeted a link to a story in response to Hillary Clinton blaming Republicans for this attack. That essentially claimed that the attacker was part of some kind of a weird gay nudist club in San Francisco, and that possibly what was happening, what was going on, was not what the media was reporting, but that it was some kind of weird sex situation between Paul Pelosi and a young guy who that went wrong. And apparently the details of this really just don't add up because, well, for lots of reasons. One, because the media immediately labeled it as a MAGA Republican. If you want to get people to disbelieve you, jump to conclusions immediately. If you don't believe what Wolf Blitzer and Andrea Mitchell say, then you're a conspiracy theorist, at least according to Glenn Greenwald, whose tweets on this were great. Glenn Greenwald stated that the way that he said it's very possible that the instantly formed media narrative, right, instantly formed, Paul Pelosi's attacker was a MAGA fanatic who broke in to murder Nancy, will be proven true. He says it's possible that will be proven true. And then he says, but right now, there are so many glaring doubts and holes in that story that it just takes common sense to question this. Greenwald continue on saying it's genuinely alarming how conditioned so much of the U.S. population is to equate skepticism toward the pronouncements of media corporations with mental illness. If you don't instantly accept what Wolf Blitzer and Andrea Mitchell claim, then you're a crazy conspiracy theorist, right? And Greenwald continues on saying it's so crucial to understand the dynamic dominating journalism because few journalists have career security. Imagine you're a young journalist at a big media corporation. You know, if you ask the questions that he's got listed here, Twitter will explode and it can ruin your career. Yeah. So Steve Krakauer, who is a reporter, a young journalist he's the executive producer for the Megyn Kelly Show, said that asks these questions about the attack. He's asked, who was the third person who opened the door for the police, right? So apparently this attack happened and they got past all their layers of security, got past their security cameras, right? San Francisco, one of the most protected homes in the world is Nancy Pelosi San Francisco's house. Why weren't there signs of forced entry at the home? Why was Pelosi holding the hammer and the attack only happened after police arrived? Where is the body cam / security footage, right? The police would have been wearing body camera footage. We should probably gain access to that. And why isn't the press asking these same questions? It's a great question. I'd like to know. Somebody posted this yesterday, this Twitter clip, this clip on Twitter, of Paul Pelosi returning to work. Be aware there is some harsh language in this clip.
Jesus, Sky, you look like shit, man. What happened?
I don't know. I got fucking wasted last night, and my phone says I texted someone at 3:15 asking them to beat me up, and then at 4:30 I texted the same person saying thanks.
And you don't remember it?
No, same as last time.
I mean, it just seems kind of gay, doesn't it?
I don't know. Maybe, yeah.
Well, do you think you're part of some, like, gay beat-up underworld? Like one of those gay beat-up clubs or something?
I know. I dig chicks, man. I don't remember any of it. I was so fucked up. I might be gay. I don't know. Hey, do you mind covering for me for a bit? I might.
You think you might be one of those gay beat up clubs? I don't know. It might be gay. Really weird story. Broken glass was outside, says Elizabeth Press. Yeah, I saw that and I thought about that one, but to me, there's a million reasons why that could be. So I don't really, I don't really say, just because the glass was outside, necessarily means that, that there's some conspiracy afoot. The responses over on YouTube are quite funny this morning. You can send us a text at 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586 to text the show. We've got lots of exciting things coming up on the program today. I've got a big announcement to make for you very soon. I'm really excited about this opportunity that is coming down for the Wake Up America show that is really going to change big time what we do here. And I can't make the announcement officially yet because I just haven't been able to, secure the release of this news. But it has a lot to do, of course, with the support that people like yourself have been giving the program. I'm really thankful for everybody who's been a supporter of the program, because it's going to be very exciting when you find out what this news is. I'm looking forward to all of the big opportunities that this program is affording us to spread the message of economic freedom and personal liberty. If you're hearing my voice cracking a little bit this morning, you probably were aware that last Thursday night I gave a speech at my old alma mater, Missouri State University, and we were talking. I was talking to the Turning Point USA students there about the price of liberty. And if you missed my speech and you wanted to get a chance to watch it, and when I produced it live, unfortunately there wasn't any audio, but I did manage to get a backup copy of it. So if you'd like to watch the program, you can do that. I posted the article with the full text of my speech, as well as the video of the speech at my YouTube channel. So youtube.com/AP for Liberty has the upload, but you can also read the full text at my website that I posted at thelibertarianrepublic.com. It should be right up there on the front page. So if you did miss my speech and you want to get a chance to hear it and see it, you can do so. It was uploaded and everything should be good for you. Now, on the Pelosi attack, the woman who is claiming to be the suspect's stepdaughter is speaking out about him. A woman by the name of Inti Gonzalez says that the Paul Pelosi attacker, DePape, that's what they're calling him, his name, pardon me for the audio there, did genuinely try to be a good person, but she says the monster in him was always too strong. So, I mean, it does sound like, a fairly random nutcase situation. DePape is 42 years old. He's accused of assaulting Pelosi with a hammer just before 2:30 a.m. on Friday. She says that her younger brothers remembered DePape physically and sexually abusing her mother and her siblings when they were very young, up until 2008. She also said her mother made a police report when she found out about her son's memories, but the case was not managed properly, so nothing was done about it. So she said that the attack came as a shock, though not much considering the kind of extreme abuse he'd inflicted on me and my brothers. She continued, I didn't see this coming, and there was no sign of this possibility from his end. DePape was reportedly living inside a school bus outside the home of an activist, Gypsy Taub, with whom he shares 3 children in the weeks leading up to the attack, living in a school bus. Now, I know someone who lives in a school bus who is perfectly sane, but for most people, I would say living in a school bus is probably not a sign. Well, I guess there are a lot of influencers out there these days that live in buses, but I don't know. To me, probably not a good sign of the guy's mental health. But who knows? Maybe the left-wing narrative is right. Maybe he was a MAGA Republican and a big Trump supporter, but I don't know if I believe that. But maybe the right is correct. Maybe he was this weird nudist, Castro nudist of San Francisco who was sleeping with Paul Pelosi, and then it went bad because it was some kind of gay beat-up club. But I think that probably the truth is going to be somewhere in the middle, or that the truth is probably going to be more boring than most people would like to allow. What do you think? Send us a text at 573-319-1586. And I have got a great clip for you when we get back. Kamala Harris, Vice President Kamala Harris, she really loves Venn diagrams. I don't know why, but she really loves Venn diagrams. It's weird. It's very weird. We'll talk about that when we get back on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
morning again in America. Our country is prouder and stronger and better.
I like shooting things, but whenever I can't shoot something, I like to cut things. My life isn't all about shooting and stabbing and cutting, though. Sometimes I have to do actual work, but when I work, I still like to have fun. And there's nothing less fun than trying to cut with a crappy knife. Thankfully, from the ancient sect of Christian knights, who also loved cutting and stabbing, comes a new implement that has received my personal blessing, the Templar knife. Like the ancient sword of Excalibur, you don't choose a Templar knife, it chooses you. You just decide what kind you want on the website first, however, and then order it online, and then it chooses you. The Templar knife comes in a variety of shapes. As a man of culture and taste, I have decided I will never use a terrible knife again. And thanks to the inspiration provided by this excellent product, I have decided to launch a new crusade against anyone using less than superior knives. Join me, brothers and sisters, by visiting uppercuttactical.com/pages/Templar-knives. That's a lot of slashes. For that, you'll need a Templar knife. For 10% off, use code AP for Liberty and join me in a quest for glory, for liberty, for Christendom, for the Templar knife. Get yours today.
Fire.
Your printing company stinks. They charge you too much money and they don't love America enough. We've got the solution. Patriot Printing USA. Whether you're running for office, saving souls, or just need business cards that will get you the new job you've been looking for, Patriot Printing USA has got you covered with the best prices around. Palm cards, brochures, bumper stickers, door hangers, you name it, we've got it. PatriotPrintingUSA.com. That's PatriotPrintingUSA.com.
Want an engaging website to boost your business? You're just a click away from 5-star Fiverr talent. Hundreds of freelancer skills like web design. Head to Fiverr.com today and get something started.
Average Americans are turning into conspiracy theorists at an unprecedented rate. Flip City Magazine was created for new converts to aid in their in-depth research along the path of absolute truth. We offer the hardest-hitting news and opinion delivered uncensored in print directly to your door. Display proudly on your coffee table or hide discreetly under your mattress. Flip City is the magazine they don't want you to see, much less read. Subscribe to Flip City Magazine today at flipcitymag.com.
I would remind you that extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice.
It is better to settle these matters in the courts than on the streets, and new laws are needed at every level. But law alone cannot make men see right.
Good morning. It's time to rise in freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. Happy Monday. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Wake Up America show with Austin Peterson. All right. Who was the joker or the clown over in the live chat that said, please hammer, don't hurt him? We love to hear from our listeners. It's a YouTube blitz. We're going to continue on asking our listeners to watch and stream and chat the show on YouTube until we get to monetization. I'll tell you where we're at so far, just a brief little update. So we are at 2,863 public watch hours. We got to get to 4,000. So we're almost there. We just got to get 1,240, 1,200, I'm doing math in my head, 47, 1,247 more, I think. Is that what 2,863 plus 1,247? Good morning, Adam Armstrong, Doug H., Quest Fanning, Albert Krockenfels, Chris Morrill, and Tolly Owens. Glad to have you here. Thank you so much for watching and tuning in to the Wake Up America show with Austin Peterson. You can also send us a text at 573-319-1586. Quest sent a text. He said, Paul Pelosi is a trouble magnet. He's created his own luck. You think so? Yes, for sure. All right. Let's see. Speaking of trouble magnets, the Vice President Kamala Harris was having a conversation the other day. I don't know why she can't act normal for just 1 minute. Good morning, Denise A. Price Welsh. Thank you so much for joining us over on the show on the live stream. All right, here is Vice President Kamala Harris in a conversation. We're see, take a listen to this.
I love Venn diagrams. I really do. I love Venn diagrams. It's just something about those three circles and the analysis about where there is the intersection, right? Yeah, I see people that you agree with me, right? So, okay, so I asked my team, I brought props. I love Venn diagrams.
Okay, what in the hell is going on? Kamala Harris, I love Venn diagrams. I really do. I love Venn diagrams. It's just something about those three circles and the analysis about where there is intersection. So here's the thing. So this is kind of like the running theme that we've had. Ooh, don't hit the microphone. The running theme that we've had with these Kamala Harris clips is that she's always talking some kind of nonsense and she like repeats it over and over again. It completely out of context, right? It feels so weird to hear her say this stuff. But here's the thing. It's almost, here's what I think is happening. I think that the vice president is trying really hard to sound cool. And this is what she does is she gets on the internet. She goes to like some left-wing site and she sees that like that Venn diagrams are really popular. So she tries to latch onto it to sound cool. You remember when you know what it is? It's like when Hillary Clinton said, you got a Pokemon go to the polls. Okay, yeah, that is kind of stoner speak, says Chris Morrill. Well, now she's changed her position on the legalization of weed. Maybe she's actually starting to loosen up a little bit. How could you date Montel Williams? How could you tell me, Kamala Harris as a prosecute all these people for weed. How could you date Montel Williams and not have smoked a spliff from time to time? Because Montel Williams has always been one of the biggest potheads. I mean, in the open, he does have a degenerative bone disease. Montel Williams does. Ask me how I know. But there's no way that Kamala Harris was dating Montel Williams and not at least getting a contact high. She could have busted him for it. But yeah, dingbat. Exactly. One of our listeners from the 573 sent us in a text. I love seeing from my local friends here in Jefferson City. Sent me a picture of a Venn diagram with strippers on the left and cats on the right. And in the center of the Venn diagram this is what connects them. I'm going to sit in your lap, but you can't touch me. All right. Well, Kamala Harris is what you get when you have diversity hires, but maybe things like that will be phased out in the future. Race-based admissions. 2 Harvard students were debating this ahead of the Supreme Court decision. And this morning, it's being reported at foxnews.com that college students are now discussing and having a debate as it heads to the Supreme Court about whether or not race should be considered during college admissions. So the debate that was held at Harvard University was held on both sides, whether or not the racial makeup of a student should be a consideration when applying to a university. One student who argued in the negative that it should not be used, that race should not be used, says that efforts like these make it more focused on race. I think it should be focused more on merit and what they're actually bringing to the college and a holistic view. This is Alma Conway. She's a third-year student from Arizona. She's Venezuelan American and said she doesn't want her ethnicity to be the most important factor and for that to be the only reason that she got into Harvard. Joseph Hernandez, he's a second-year student from California, disagreed. He says, my experience with race in the classroom hasn't been something that's so easily disentangled with other things that typically measure opportunity. He says he thinks it's a factor that determines people's opportunity and as such should be taken into account when we look at admissions. That's a difficult one because the problem is that what you start doing is you start ranking people based on their race and putting them into hierarchies. Because consider this, Asian Americans for quite some time were beneficiaries of affirmative action. But that's changed now because so many Asian Americans were getting into these Ivy League schools that Asian Americans have actually been taken off of the list of races that are discriminated against. And so now they're no longer a protected class, which is fascinating because, I mean, consider this. I mean, imagine yourself, imagine trying to convince people that you're not a racist and sitting down and imagine a whiteboard behind me, and I'm just sitting there writing, okay, Venezuelan American, okay, struggled under Hugo Chavez, right? But they're light-skinned Hispanics. So then if they're lighter-skinned Hispanics, then they're not as discriminated against like, let's say, Brazilians, or let's say, Chileans, for example. Let's say that, there's darker-skinned people in Chile than there are in, can you imagine sitting down there and trying to figure something like that out and then trying to convince the world that you're somehow not a racist? How are you going to do something like that and honestly say that you're not making some kind of a racial analysis that isn't based on stereotypes, right? Because that's what it all comes down to. And needless to say, the people who are here in the United States today that aren't, immigrants themselves, right? They're so far removed from the types of oppression, at least in terms of like when they were born and when their parents were born, they're so far removed from the types of oppression where you might actually say, oh, well, okay, this is like some form of a reparation for some kind of historical oppression. They're so far removed from it in this generation that it makes absolutely no sense for race to come in as a factor for who should be able to get into a university. Never mind the fact that many of these universities are taxpayer funded. Some of them are private. That's a different situation. Judge Napolitano and I had this conversation actually not last week about the question of race-based admissions. And both he and I agreed that if they're not taking federal funds, then of course that should be a big factor in whether or not you determine, whether race-based admissions should be allowed. Just like, there's historically black colleges, right? HBCUs. And if they're privately funded and they want to allow, if they want to be segregated entirely according to race, that should be their freedom. Just like I believe in private property rights for Christian bakers who don't want to bake gay wedding cakes. It's a private property issue to me. And I really think that we get into the weeds and we start to muddy the waters when we start to try and delineate between people's race, classify people based on race, and then start to give them special privileges and benefits based on their race. Now, what do I think the Supreme Court is going to do? I have no idea. And the reason why I have no idea is because despite my best guesses in the past, and despite the fact that you can say, oh, well, it's a conservative majority on the Supreme Court, you never know what people like the Supreme Court's Justice John Roberts, what he's going to do. You never know what Amy Coney Barrett's going to do. Some of these people that people consider to be strong conservatives on the court, they'll flip-flop on issues that you would think that they would be solid on before. So, I got out of the prediction game a long time ago, so I'm just not going to do it. Except for the midterms, I'll make a prediction. Or I'll make Cady make a prediction because he's joining us. You can see him right there. There he is. I'm going to bring him in. I'll turn his microphone on even when we get back to talk about whether or not you should vote. And he's a libertarian. Whether or not you should vote to legalize marijuana. When I say libertarian, I mean small L libertarian, libertarian Republican like me. But he's not going to vote to legalize weed here in Missouri. All my libertarian friends are not voting to legalize weed. What the hell is going on? We'll talk about that when we get back on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
Want an engaging website to boost your business? You're just a click away from 5-star Fiverr talent. Hundreds of freelancer skills like web design. Head to Fiverr.com today and get something started.
American conservatism is distinct, like America is distinct from the United Kingdom. American conservatism's roots comes out of the Wild West, out of pioneerism. The difference between American conservatives and European conservatives is that Americans are cowboys. We are that God, guns, gold, and girls. It's wild here. And we should stay that way. We shouldn't allow a European version of conservatism to come and infect us here. We like it wide open spaces here, deep in the heart of Texas and all that.
Austin's wife. I want to thank you all for watching the Wake Up America show with Austin Peterson. This show has been a huge venture for our family, so we would love it if you could join us.
I believe in liberty, and I believe in Austin's ability to spread the ideas of liberty. Do you?
I want to ask you today to join Peterson's Patriots with a pledge of $17.76 a month. Help us to stay cancel-proof so we can spread the message of limited government across the country. I joined Peterson's Patriots myself, just in a little different way. Visit wakeupamericashow.com/support and make your pledge today.
Average Americans are turning into conspiracy theorists at an unprecedented rate. Flip City Magazine was created for new converts to aid in their in-depth research along the path of absolute truth. We offer the hardest-hitting news and opinion delivered uncensored in print directly to your door. Display proudly on your coffee table or hide discreetly under your mattress. Flip City is the magazine they don't want you to see, much less read. Subscribe to Flip City Magazine today at flipcitymag.com.
Speaker Pelosi's husband, Paul, made a big investment in chips just before Congress votes on a bill that would give $52 billion in subsidies and tax credits to the chip industry.
Over the course of your career, has your husband ever made a stock purchase or sale based on information he received from you?
No.
And I believe if you come to our border, you will be turned back. Do not come. Do not come.
Have you ever received a royalty payment from a company that you later oversaw money going to that company?
You know, I don't know as a fact, but I doubt it.
Well, here's the thing is, why don't you let us know?
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. Happy Monday. It's 7:34. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show with Austin Peterson at wakeupamericashow.com. Glad to have you here. Joining us now in studio, one of our favorite guests, Jeremy Cady, is with us right now. Good morning, Jeremy. How are you doing, sir?
Good morning. I am doing great today. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, glad to have you here. Thanks for coming on the program this morning, Jeremy. You work at Americans for Prosperity. You're the state leader here. Just real briefly, what is Americans for Prosperity for those who might have no clue?
We're a grassroots grassroots organization all across the country. We've got 35 chapters across the nation. But here specifically in Missouri, we work with different groups and organizations to mobilize them, to teach them and mobilize them on how to make a large impact in government, trying to reduce the barriers that government places between you and prosperity.
That's good. Well, Jeremy, that's certainly something that we support. And we brought you in here today because Americans for Prosperity, which normally I wouldn't say, takes a stand on issues like cannabis or things like that, marijuana. You guys decided to take a stance, even though, you're kind of more liberty-leaning organization, against the legalization of marijuana. Why?
Actually, historically, we have made stances on marijuana. We've worked for the legalization of marijuana in several states. And in fact, we supported Representative Ron Hicks' legalization bill last year during session. And so it's one of those things where we have actually supported legalization, decriminalization in a number of states, including in Missouri. However, Amendment 3 doesn't quite do what we think it ought to be doing. More of the debate in Jefferson City is not necessarily around whether it should be legal or not anymore. I think most folks agree that it's going to be legalized at some point in time. But I think the discussion now is making sure that it's done in the appropriate fashion. Amendment 3 doesn't do that. To me, Amendment 3 makes basically a legal cartel. It gives the big corporate interests that are already involved in the medical marijuana business first dibs at the licenses for the recreational. It bars anyone else from really getting in and really participating. It creates like these micro business licenses that won't allow people to actually get a good chunk of the business. And so to us, that's inhibiting the free market. That's inhibiting the ability for people to be entrepreneurs, to innovate, and get into the business. And so we think that if we're going to legalize marijuana, we ought to do it correctly. And if it's going to go in the Constitution, it shouldn't be a statute. It should be one line that says the state of Missouri shall not prohibit the purchase, the sale, the growth, the distribution, the trade of marijuana, except for, making sure minors don't get it or something like that. So with few exceptions, and then let the legislature go in and do what they need to do to make sure that it's safe and sound and everything else.
Now, the allegations are that I'm hearing right now is that the people who wrote this amendment to put on the ballot were doing this in order to enrich themselves personally. You think there's any truth to that?
No, absolutely. Oftentimes whenever someone is putting something on the ballot, look at who wrote it. Look at who wrote that ballot and that ballot language. And it was the interests that are already involved in medical marijuana. They wrote the language here, and they did it to protect themselves, to increase their market share and increase their wealth. So this is basically just it's an amendment that will protect a very select few in the business and make sure they're very, very, very wealthy at the end of the day.
Some people have compared this to what Joe Biden did in terms of legalization, and that it doesn't really help that many people. But I mean, in Missouri's legislation or this amendment would actually prevent more people from being arrested in Missouri. Isn't that correct?
It would prevent more people from being arrested, although it doesn't fully decrim or legalize marijuana either. You can still go to jail and prison for having too much marijuana on in your possession. So what we'd like to see is we would like to see true decriminalization, true legalization, and a greater, better, freer market in the marketplace for marijuana. We don't want to turn into a California. I saw a statistic from an article in September on California. 80% of their marijuana is still sold in the black market because it's too difficult to get it through either the legal system, and they fully legalize. It's too difficult to get it through the legal system, or it's too expensive because they've set up, their monopolies, their high taxes, their regulations, and they're trying to make money off of it as a government instead of letting the market decide instead. So we don't want to turn into a California where we have it legalized, but still 80% of it is on the black market.
If you're just tuning into the show, we're speaking to Jeremy Cady of Americans for Prosperity about the legalization of cannabis. It will be on the ballot. Is there anything else that's on that's being referendum or that we're voting on here
in Missouri that's of note that Americans for Prosperity is keeping an eye on, or any races that are of note? I know we have the Eric Schmidt versus Trudy Bush Valentine race, but I mean that seems to be kind of in the bag, wouldn't you say? That Senate race.
Yeah, Americans for Prosperity Action was out in support of Eric Schmidt. After the primary, though, we believe Eric's going to be just fine in the general, so we haven't been really active there. We have been active in a number of House races as Americans for Prosperity. We've got the re-election of Adam Schwadron out in the St. Charles area. We've got Bob Mahachek out in St. Louis County. We've got Dr. Bill Allen out in Kansas City, and we've got Melanie Stinnett down in Springfield. All great folks that I'm looking forward to working with in the legislature next year.
How do you feel about the possibility for a red wave in the midterms? Do you think that Republicans will capture the House? Do you have any predictions?
I try to stay out of the prediction business. It's very, very difficult. But at the same time, though, I mean, it looks like Republicans have a really, really good chance of taking the House. I would say that's probably getting close to the definite category or column. And I think chances for the Senate seem to be growing as time progresses. It's one of those things where I think people are seeing Biden's destructive policies, how that's increased the prices and made it more difficult to get by on a day-to-day basis. And I think families have had enough of it.
If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show with Austin Peterson, you can text us at 573-319-1586. We're speaking to Jeremy Cady from Americans for Prosperity. I mean, the Democrats have been, doing what they can to try and rally their forces for this fall. But I mean, the state of the economy is such as it is with inflation. I mean, those have really become the issues that people are, probably driving people to the polls, wouldn't you say?
No, and this has been the issue the entire time. Whenever Americans for Prosperity Action started their activity in support of Eric Schmidt for the U.S. Senate race, that's what they hammered on time and again. Like from day one, last November, December it's the economy. It's inflation. It's the cost of goods. It's the cost of gasoline, groceries, putting food on the table. We've seen interest rates go up. Now mortgages are getting really, really expensive. It's all those items. And there's been other issues that have popped up. There was with the Roe versus Wade, in the Supreme Court, there was a lot of thought that might interfere. But it's one of those things where I think a lot of the talking heads have said, hey, that probably crested too soon. And everyone's now focused back on the economy again. And so I think, and those are the discussions that we're having out on the doors. Out of the doors, it's the cost of goods is what's on people's minds.
During the commercial break, you and I were talking about Elon Musk taking over Twitter, and I was talking about how he stated publicly that there haven't been any changes yet to moderation policies, but you think different.
It's one of those things where I've seen a lot of new folks. Not a lot, but I've seen a few folks have their accounts reinstated. We actually have an activist. We did an event at their gas station out in Fredericktown not too long ago. He had been permabanned with his account, and he's back on already. And so we've seen interesting things like that. Then I've also saw I follow a lot of folks in kind of the Bitcoin environment on Twitter, and a number of them, every time they tweet something, there's just a ton of bots that just have the spam that come afterward, and they've seen a huge decrease in that spam and those bots already overnight. So it's one of those things where they might say that they haven't done anything, but there looks to be some changes that have been made already.
Yeah, it does seem weird because, over time you would see sometimes you'd lose like hundreds and hundreds of followers. And I always thought that was them clearing up the bots. But then since Elon took over, I've been, the same kind of thing has happened, but it's been fluctuating wildly. It does feel like something weird's going on, No,
one of the folks that I follow regarding Bitcoin hard wallets, in fact, he was limited at about 95,000 followers, he said. And for months, he would get to about 95, then it would drop down to 92, 93,000. Then overnight, over this weekend, he finally eclipsed 95 and has stayed there. So it's one of those things where a lot of folks have been seeing different things. Maybe nothing changed. Maybe it's all coincidental, but it's a lot of coincidences. So we'll see.
No kidding. Jeremy Cady from Americans for Prosperity. Is there anything else that you think people should know before I let you go?
No, just make sure that we got November 8th. That's next Tuesday. Get out and vote. Elections are, we always hear that this election is always the most important election, and it kind of is because it's the one that makes a difference today. But they're all important. Make sure that you go out, get your voice heard. If you want less government getting in your way, you need to get out and vote.
I just want to say on the record, this is the most important election. Well, actually, the most important election was the one that I was in. So you should have voted in those elections. They were the most important election. Jeremy Cady from Americans for Prosperity, thank you so much for joining us on the show today.
It's been a pleasure.
Glad to have you here. All right, good stuff. All right, so we still got lots of great programming to go. Vance Ginn's going to join us this morning at 8 a.m. But up next, 8 hours is too long to work in a day. Yes, I've got this audio from an activist who, on the job, posted a video of them saying 8 hours is just too long to work in a day. Too long to work in a day. Whatever you do, don't start your own business. We'll talk about all that and more when we get back on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupamericashow.com.
As a medic to be there to help my patients, and after an injury I found myself as a patient. I experienced post-traumatic seizures. Depression is a big one that comes along with it, PTSD. So I pursued my PhD in neuroscience and regenerative medicine. The coalition has helped fund my academic pursuits. They genuinely care about helping the vet in whatever way that they can. Through supporting the coalition, you're supporting some of the veterans that have the biggest needs.
Visit saluteheroes.org to learn more.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun. Thank you, guys.
Enough yet? Do facts no longer matter? Are lies to be encouraged instead of punished? This is not our inheritance. If truth no longer matters, we will not remain free for long. This is our generation's challenge, to defend our founders' hope that we the people could self-govern if we defend our right to get the facts. And right now, we're building the only defense of free people have. The facts on every politician, every position they held, every statement they've made, every vote they've made, and any cash they've taken. It's the real history on those now pandering for your vote. There are hundreds of young people building our defense right now, and they need your help. We all have our passions, but as our ancestors knew, when events become so foul they threaten us all, we must stand and defend each other. Please, have our backs. Join us at votesmart.org.
What would happen if I had to pick up the phone, call 911 for one of my family members or one of my neighbors? What would I do if no one was on the other end to respond? What if there was no 911? So you can be a part of the solution.
Anybody can be a firefighter. Male, female, younger, older.
We have school teachers. We have leaders in business.
It's me, you, anyone that wants to be.
There is no typical firefighter.
Halloween is coming.
The festival of Samhain approaches, and your lazy butt doesn't have a Halloween costume yet? How can you pledge allegiance to the Dark Lord this year and possibly offend everyone at the same time? Visit the AP for Liberty shop and get your shirt today. The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government, and I'm here to help. So grab your government is scary tea and tell everyone at the party that you're here to help. Other great seasonal items are available as well, so don't miss out. And visit AP for Liberty shop today. That's apforlibertyshop.com.
Followers and listeners to join us over at youtube.com/AP4Liberty, and we would be super grateful if you would do so. All right, let's head on over to our Twitter weirdness video of the day. Take a listen to this Starbucks employee talking about their daily work schedule. Take a listen.
People wonder why we need a union at Starbucks, and I am literally about to quit. Like, I don't know if I'm going to do it, but, like, I really want to. I almost walked out today, and I'm crying in the back room right now, and I almost cried on the floor. It's just, I'm like a full-time student. I get scheduled for 25 hours a week, and on weekends they schedule me the entire day, open to close. I'm on the schedule for 8.5 hours, both Saturday and Sunday.
8.5?
I'm like 3.5 hours into my shift. There's so many customers, and we have 4 people on the floor all day. Only 5 people were put on the schedule, and somebody had to call out. And there are 4 people running the whole store, and there's so many customers, and there's possibly scheduled 5 people. We only have 13 people employed at this store, and there's so many customers. We don't have fair scheduling. Managers don't care about us. Our manager was supposed to come in this weekend, and he took himself off the schedule, so he wouldn't be able to be held accountable for calling out. He just literally tore down the schedule that he was scheduled on and put up a new schedule where he wasn't on the schedule. Also, he couldn't have even seen that he was scheduled in the first place because he didn't want to be held accountable for not wanting to come in. They don't want to help us. We need a union because this can't happen. This can't happen. We need fair scheduling. We need managers to hold themselves accountable for helping their workers. They refuse to turn mobile orders off. We need the liberty to be able to do that because there's so many mobile orders. And
I love it when leftists use the word liberty. Continue.
need to get through all of them, and then people are yelling at me because I don't have their orders ready, and they don't know what to do. And a customer was misgendering me today, like, really badly. I didn't have their order ready, and so they were just, like, talking to each other, and they're like, she's clearly incompetent. I have a full mustache and beard.
No, you do not. You do not have a full mustache and beard. That is as somebody who struggles with growing a full mustache and beard. Well, at least a full beard. That is not a full mustache and beard. Now, if you're listening to us later on the program, I'm sorry you're missing out on the visuals of this incredible video of this Starbucks worker who's claiming that they really need a union at Starbucks. I'm not saying they don't need a union at Starbucks. Maybe they do, but to prevent you from having to work 8.5 hours a day, 8.5 hours a day, that's like a half day for some of us out here, kid.
What the fuck? I don't get accommodations for being neurodivergent. I don't.
Oh, yes. Neurodivergent. Not only transgender, but also neurodivergent. I mean, if you're transgender, isn't being neurodivergent just sort of like, part of the deal?
Like, I can't use, people get mad at me for using my sick time. I don't even know what to do anymore. I'm like at my wit's end with this job.
What would you do if you were a boss and somebody who worked for you posted that clip? What would you do? I think I would fire them immediately. What a weenie. What a weenie. So much of this neurodivergent crap is just an excuse to not have to work. Matt Mahler, good to see you this morning, buddy. Hey, thanks so much for tuning into the show. Glad to hear from you. Thanks so much for joining us over on the live stream. Laura Lee Wright this morning is over on Facebook, and she says that kid is why I can't be a manager in hospitality anymore. I would get fired for not caring about their feelings. Yes.
Same here. My husband and I are a union at the job we work at together with 12 other employees, says Greg Watson. And Corey Kleiber says, what is this person doing with the phones are ringing and people are lining up for coffee? That's what I was wondering, is that they're sitting there complaining about all these customers and that they're behind on their work. Well, they're sitting in the back making some kind of a stinking TikTok video when they should be getting in there and serving their customers. But what's funny too is that you work 8.5 hours on the weekend. Well, you're a full-time student, right? So you only work 4-hour shifts during the week, but then you work 8.5 hours. When else were you going to be able to work a full shift in order to be part-time? Like, what do you expect them to have you work? I mean, listen, this is that generation today, and I have no idea. I have no idea how to solve these kids' problems. I mean, I have a hard enough time trying to find somebody to hire, and I'll tell you, happy Halloween for those who are just tuning into the Wake Up America show. I'm looking at what's trending on Twitter. I usually try and keep an eye out on what's happening in real time. Hashtag Happy Halloween is trending this morning. Good to see it. Based Samhain. Assassination, not quite sure what that is. I will check that in a moment. Hashtag Pelosi's gay lover is trending this morning. Hashtag Pelosi's gay lover trending on Twitter. That means that it's confirmed, completely confirmed. Love to hear that from you. Max Boot over on Twitter, who is a former Republican, neoconservative, now a hardcore Democrat apparatchik, says, don't accept the GOP framing of the assault on Paul Pelosi as evidence of a problem plaguing, quote, both sides of the aisle. Max Boot says that political violence in America is being driven primarily by the far right, not the far left. Can you imagine being somebody like Max Boot? How do you get into a scenario where you become someone like Max Boot, where you were such a hardcore pro-war neocon? And it was Donald Trump. Donald Trump just broke these people into a billion different pieces. That's why. That's how you get that way. It's, how'd you might say? Mary Catherine Hammer, said that, man, I can think of 3 attacks on righty canvassers in the last month, plus a murder, plus a SCOTUS assassination attempt. She says, don't accept the framing of anyone who transparently, eagerly uses allegations or incidents of political violence as a means of silencing their political adversaries. That's true, right? With Max Boot's comment there about, don't accept the GOP framing as this problem plaguing both sides of the aisle. Wasn't it just like a few weeks ago that we saw, or 2 weeks ago, or maybe it was just last week, that there was some canvasser for Marco Rubio that got beaten so badly that his eye was leaking out of his face. So yeah, I think that it is a problem that does plague both sides of the aisle. Assassination is trending on Twitter right now, and I think that it looks like it's a left-wing Twitter trend. So you know what? We're just annoying. Dr. Bob Onder says on about Alito this morning, Dr. Bob Onder, state senator from Missouri, says the leak of his draft opinion of Alito made the justices, quote, targets for assassination because it gave people a rational reason to think they could prevent that by killing one of us. Hashtag Mo Leg. That's Dr. Bob Onder. Just retweeted that this morning. You can check that out over at twitter.com/AP for Liberty. Don't forget, I am going to be giving away a prize today from the Wake Up America show's online store, which is just apforlibertyshop.com. If you want a chance to win a prize from the AP for Liberty shop, you have to be a monthly supporter. Just head over to AP for Liberty shop. Oh, I'm sorry. Still early on Monday. I'm still waking up. Did to drink my coffee during the commercial break. So what you want to do in order to qualify is to go to wakeupamerica.show.com/support, sign up for one of our monthly support levels, and you could be a winner. Yeah, I'll pick one at the end of the show today to win a gift from the AP for Liberty shop website if you're a monthly supporter. All righty. We'll be back with Vance Ginn. He's the former White House top economist under Donald Trump. He's going to talk about whether or not we're actually already in a recession. All that and more on the Wake Up America show at wakeupamericashow.com.
Hello. My name is Kelvin. Welcome to Frenchy Bush. This is my Didi's website. Now I've decided to speak to you with my real voice for the first time ever to tell you about how cool Frenchy Bush is. But I've decided that this is the perfect opportunity to share with you. Frenchy Bush is a good website. You should follow us on socials. If you like Frenchies or any kind of bulldogs, me and my new brother George are going to try to make your life more fun.
Hello, I'm George. My neck isn't really thick yet, but it will be. We are so glad you're here. Please ignore my floating eyeball. It helps me spot predators who might be approaching from the sides.
Didi made Frenchy Bush to review things that he uses on me and my brother to tell you if it's good or bullshit. Take this collar, for example. Didi really likes it. Didi said it's really handy because us Frenchies got thick necks. Need something really tough. People think Frenchies are little, but if you look at us from below, you can see we are really pretty buff. Beefcake. Yes. Look at my creamy thighs and chest. Yes. You like that?
Big brother, please focus.
Frenchy Bush. Please follow us for more great content and read the Frenchy Bush blog for more fun and cool stuff.
I'm a public defender.
I am a public defender.
I'm proud to be a public defender.
80% of Americans accused of a crime will get appointed a public defender.
Everybody from a speeding ticket to capital murder.
For every dollar we spend on public defenders, we spend $3 on prosecutors.
Public defenders have to do pretty much everything on their own.
Social workers, counselors.
Investigating is another piece of it.
The average public defender holds 300 cases annually.
You never feel like there's enough time.
Public defenders have health issues all the time.
A lot of people give up and say, I can't do this work anymore.
Gideon's Promise trains, mentors, and supports public defenders.
There are a lot of people who say that they would not still be public defenders, but for Gideon's Promise.
It's fueled me to continue on in this fight.
Gideon's Promise has changed the face of public defense.
People see us as troublemakers.
Good trouble only.
We don't make it easy. It should not be easy to take away someone's liberty.
Ever hear the one about the frog? Put a frog in a pot of boiling water and it'll jump right out.
Here's my resume again.
But put a frog in a pot of cool water and slowly heat it up and that frog will boil. It's a lie. But as a metaphor for us and all that we go through as veterans,
Do you have any real world experience?
it's a story that rings true. We make excuses for how we feel. We push everything down. We tell ourselves the lie that it's easier to stay in that boiling water, to disconnect. And some days, maybe it is. But you've never been interested in easy. Make no mistake, reaching out is hard. Do it anyway. You're not alone. You've got this. You are not a frog.
Find resources at va.gov/reach.
During last Friday's afternoon news dump, it was announced that President Joe Biden's administration had extended the COVID-19 national emergency, despite the president's recent declaration that, quote, the pandemic is over. This national emergency was first declared by President Donald Trump in January 2020 and has been renewed every 90 days since. This makes the 40th ongoing national emergency, and the oldest one of these is related to the 1979 Iran hostage crisis. When the president declares a national emergency, it grants him broad authority to respond to that emergency, such as things like managing means of production, in this case, vaccines and N95 mask manufacturing, as well as other things like sending military troops abroad and other extreme actions like instituting martial law, controlling transportation, and even communication. You'll remember President Trump stirred a controversy over this in recent years when he used his emergency powers to redirect billions of taxpayer dollars to help build the wall at the southern border after Congress declined his request to include the money in a government funding bill. The federal government has confirmed a nationwide shortage of Adderall, months after nearly 2/3 of community pharmacies reported that they were having trouble filling prescriptions. And despite this shortage, the federal government also indicates that it will not raise the drug's production quota for next year. In case you didn't already know, Adderall is a federally controlled substance because of its potential for abuse, and patients in most states can only pick up 1 month's supply at a time, and generally can only do so a few days before their previous prescription runs out. In response to the current shortage, the Food and Drug Administration has recommended that patients speak with their providers about finding alternative methods for treatment. The Drug Enforcement Agency, more commonly referred to as the DEA, every year sets up a production quota for Adderall to establish the quantities made for medical, scientific, and industrial use. Prescriptions for Adderall last year were up 10.4% compared to 2020. Between then and now, in response to the COVID-19 pandemic, officials had relaxed federal rules that had required traditional in-person examinations before the prescription of addictive drugs like Adderall and Xanax. And in response to these rule changes, there was a boom in telehealth startup apps that were designed to streamline this relationship between remote providers and their patients. One of these popular telehealth apps, known as Cerebral Inc., is now under federal investigation for deceptive and unfair advertising and marketing practices after the Federal Trade Commission announced that it was stepping up enforcement against companies that, quote, trick or trap consumers into subscription services.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. It's 8:06, and you're watching and listening to the Wake Up America Show with Austin Peterson at wakeupAmericaShow.com. We're glad to have you here. All right, well, I just read a scary headline over on CNN.com. It says, the Fed may have to blow up the economy in order to get inflation under control. That's not good, but you know what? I'm not educated in economics. Let's get somebody in here who is. He's Vance Ginn. He's the former White House chief economist under Donald Trump, and he's also a senior fellow at the Young Americans for Liberty, joining us now. Good morning, Vance. Thanks so much for coming back on the show. We always appreciate your input.
Hey, thanks, Austin. It's a pleasure to be with you on this spooky Halloween.
Yeah, happy Halloween. Nothing scarier than inflation, though, Vance. Some people are claiming that we're already in a recession. Some people say, oh, well, how do you even define a recession? Where are we at right now with our economy?
It's a great question, Austin. And I think if you look at the facts, and that's something that we should consider, right? And you go all the way back to 1950, every recession since then, when you've had 2 declining quarters of real economic output, what have they called it? A recession. And that's what we had in the first half of this year in quarter 1 and quarter 2, negative 1.6% growth, negative 0.6%, 0.6% growth, if I can get it out. So we had negative declining economic output in the first half, which is a recession. Now, we did get some new numbers out last week for Q3. It showed that there was an increase of 2.6% in real economic output, gross domestic product, right? And so some are claiming, well, if there was a recession, it's over now. This is a good time and things are improving. But I would argue that if we would have had inflation just be as high as it was the last 3 quarters, it would have still been declining real economic output. We had a dip a slowdown in inflation because oil and gas prices went down in the third quarter after a huge increase in the second quarter. And if you had excluded net exports, right? So just looking at the domestic economy, we would have also had a decline in real economic output. So I believe we're still in a recession. Things are not looking good for families across the country. And there's a lot more that's going to need to be done by the Federal Reserve or jacking up their target interest rate and reducing their balance sheet, which is still overly bloated at about $9 trillion.
But here's the thing, Vance, and maybe this is a room for us to be a little bit skeptical about that and to maybe take a little bit more of an optimistic view, because 16 hours ago, Nobel Prize winning economist Paul Krugman said that there's a good probability that we'll look back on how America handled the pandemic shock, mostly under Biden, and see it as a big success story. So Paul Krugman says that it's been a huge success.
Well, whenever Paul Krugman says something, you should look the other way and not look at it. I mean, look, his research on trade and international trade flows is why he won the Nobel Prize. That was actually some really good research. The problem is now is that he's just a talking head, right? And he's just working for the New York Times to come up with whatever the DNC wants to spout out for that day. We're not going to look at the pandemic as a good time. And to think that we lost 22 million jobs. It took 2.5 years to get those jobs back as we shut down the economy. We've printed all this money. We spent over $1 trillion, ran up the national debt to more than $31 trillion. Now we've got mortgage rates that are twice what they were just a year ago of 7%. And inflation running higher than 8% as measured by the Consumer Price Index. People's food prices are up 13%. Halloween candy up 13% year over year. I mean, if you want to consider that a success story, then don't count me in, because that's not a success story in my book.
Another listener messaged us at 573-319-1586 and asked this question: is there any way to bring more value to our dollars without drastic measures? You're talking about the Federal Reserve needing to do something. I mean, that means that you pretty much think that they need to raise rates even more?
I think so. And it's not just their target interest rate, right? I mean, that's what they target, the federal funds rate that's up to 3 to 3.25%. They're supposed to meet again they're going to meet again in November, maybe raise it another 75 basis points, meaning 0.75%. So that would put it up to 3.75 to 4%. And there's probably going to be another increase of another 50 basis points before the year's over. We could see above 4% interest rates just in their overnight lending rate. Now, how do they do that? Well, they pull money out of the economy. And when you look at their Fed's balance sheet, it's only down about 2.6% from the peak in April of 2022 after it went up 113% from $4 trillion to about $9 trillion from 2020 to where we are today. So we have a long way to go before we're actually going to see an aggressive stance that's needed by the Federal Reserve. They created this problem. Look, Congress is to blame as well. They ran up a massive amount of government spending that increased the national debt, but then that fueled what the Federal Reserve did by printing more money, putting more money in the economy, and too much money chasing too few goods, because you also had increased government spending that redistributes money throughout the economy and hampers economic growth. You had increasing regulations by the Biden administration. Look at the energy, oil and gas, and everything else. That slowed production in the economy. At the same time, you're increasing demand. Simple supply, supply and demand economics, Econ 101 shows that you're going to get higher inflation. And so this is a Fed's creation. They've got to come in and be even more aggressive now, like they were so aggressive going up. And that's going to hit us for a while, but it's necessary. It's inevitable. The boom busts, as we learned from Ludwig von Mises in Austrian school economics and things of that nature. This is unfortunately what the situation is. And until we end the Fed, which we should, we're going to continue to see these problems.
If you're just tuning in, we're speaking to Vance Ginn. He is a senior fellow at Young Americans for Liberty. We're talking about the state of the economy. Now, Vance, what does this mean for the state of the housing market? I was talking to just the real estate market in general. I was talking to my old sensei in Old Town, Virginia, a couple of weeks ago when I was in D.C., and he wants to buy a property because he's getting kicked out of his rental place where he teaches his classes. He wants to buy a property, but with interest rates as they are right now, it's not looking good for him. It could be a long time before we see reasonable interest rates again, right, Vance?
Well, that's right, Austin. I mean, like I said, a mortgage rate has more than doubled. It's above 7%, which is the highest now in 20 years. You've got to go way back in the 2000s to really see this sort of interest rate in 2000. And during that period of time, you didn't have as much inflation as you do now. So with inflation running hot, higher than 8%, the federal funds rate being closer to 3% right now, they've got a long way to go up before they can actually get real interest rates to be positive. And look, mortgage rates are still negative, right? And thinking about, if you take the mortgage rate of 7%, subtract off inflation of 8%, that means the real interest rate is negative 1%. So you still have an inflationary sort of situation that is more accommodative. It seems costly for us, and it is. But if you think about it over time, you're still going to see a declining amount of mortgage interest rate. And I think what you're going to see too, Austin, we're already seeing this, as demand is falling off a cliff. I mean, it's substantially down for mortgages, for housing, I should say, for demand, that is going to continue to decline. And we saw housing boom during this period of economic growth after the recession, after the pandemic and everything else. Now we're seeing that going to lead to even a deeper recession that's going to also be longer than what we were anticipating, because the Fed's going to have higher interest rates for a longer period of time. There was a recent Wall Street Journal article that was even talking about this. So, even some of those who aren't more free market oriented on the economy, they're saying this is going to be longer than what many anticipate as well.
Is there a political solution to all of this, Vance? I mean, other than just like fiddling with the numbers, the Federal Reserve raising interest rates. But I mean, do you believe that if the Republicans really do take power in the midterms, take control of the House, possibly take even the Senate, that this is going to induce the kind of, I guess you might say, austerity from the Democrats in the White House? Or do you expect that until we actually, do a full control of the government, that we won't see the kind of economic measures that will, provide us with the long-term stability that's necessary?
I sure hope so, Austin. I mean, I think it's still an uphill battle, because you'll still have Biden in the White House who can come in and veto anything. But I think we are seeing many more liberty-minded candidates. The Young Americans for Liberty has this Hazlitt coalition that really brings about these free market folks who are more liberty-oriented, and many more of them are going to be up for election here in just a week, right? Next week is election day. And I hope many more of them will be elected, because we need folks who are going to be thinking about pro-growth, free market solutions that's going to get government out of the way that's causing all these problems, that are causing these burdens in our daily lives. And that's really what matters, right, Austin, is not just the GDP numbers or the inflation numbers. It's about families. It's about individuals being able to do what they want to do and prosper in whatever way is going to make them flourish. And when government's in your way and setting up all these barriers, you just can't do that. So with a new Congress coming in, what it looks like from the polls so far is that the Republicans will at least take the House, maybe even the Senate, if you consider some of the polls that are out there. That would be huge to provide more pro-growth policies. And I hope that includes cutting government spending. And that wasn't a repeat. You're listening to that, because I think that's number one. Now, the government spending is a distortion throughout the entire economy. That's the ultimate burden of government, is how much they spend. Taxes and other things are just a symptom of that burden. And of course, taxes should then be cut. Regulation should be cut. But we've got to start freeing up, unleashing the private sector, the productive private sector, and that will allow us to have a more prosperous future.
Vance, is there anything else that you think our listeners should know before I let you go?
Well, I just think like these sort of discussions, Austin, that we're having here are so important to really dig into the numbers, because we're sold a lot of fake news, if you will, about the economy is roaring back 2.6%. And if you look underneath the hood, it's not. And you exclude net exports, like I said, you have declining real economic output. If you had inflation as high as it was the last 3 quarters, this was a one-time inflationary dip down. You would have negative or declining real economic output. So this is still what I consider to be a recession. This is just 1 quarter of maybe some good news that some want to show. But even over over the last 10 or 11 recessions, many of them have had 1 quarter of positive, increasing real economic output to just turn negative again, even during the 07 to 09 recession. Just something to think about for the audience here, is to really look underneath all these numbers, and hopefully we can keep doing that here, Austin, to bring forth these numbers to the audience.
Right. Well, thanks for all the scary news on Halloween. Happy Halloween, Vance Ginn, Senior Fellow at Young Americans for Liberty. Thank you for your time today. We always appreciate your insight.
Hey, thanks, Austin. Have a great day. Happy Halloween.
Absolutely. Happy Halloween. Did you like Vance Ginn? Send us a text, 573-319-1586. When we get back, annoying coworker habits. Somebody actually did a poll on this. The most annoying coworker habits. Yes, somebody actually had to go and do a poll to find out what they were. What do you think they are? Something that your coworkers do that annoys the hell out of you. Send me a text, 573-319-1586. We'll be back on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupamericashow.com.
Want an engaging website to boost your business? You're just a click away from 5-star Fiverr talent. Hundreds of freelancer skills like web design. Head to Fiverr.com today and get something started.
American conservatism is distinct, like America is distinct from the United Kingdom. American conservatism's roots comes out of the Wild West, out of pioneerism. The difference between American conservatives and European conservatives is that Americans are cowboys. We are that God, guns, gold, and girls. It's wild here. And we should stay that way. We shouldn't allow a European version of conservatism to come and infect us here. We like it wide open spaces here, deep in the heart of Texas and all that.
Austin's wife. I want to thank you all for watching the Wake Up America Show with Austin Peterson. This show has been a huge venture for our family, so we would love it if you could join us. I believe in liberty, and I believe in Austin's ability to spread the ideas of liberty. Do you? I want to ask you today to join Peterson's Patriots with a pledge of $17.76 a month. Help us to stay cancel-proof so we can spread the message of limited government across the country. I joined Peterson's Patriots myself, just in a little different way. Visit wakeupamericashow.com/support and make your pledge today.
Average Americans are turning into conspiracy theorists at an unprecedented rate. Flip City Magazine was created for new converts to aid in their in-depth research along the path of absolute truth. We offer the hardest-hitting news and opinion delivered uncensored in print directly to your door. Display proudly on your coffee table or hide discreetly under your mattress. Flip City is the magazine they don't want you to see, much less read. Subscribe to Flip City Magazine today at flipcitymag.com.
Speaker Pelosi's husband Paul made a big investment in chips just before Congress votes on a bill that would give $52 billion in subsidies and tax credits to the chip industry.
Over the course of your career, has your husband ever made a stock purchase or sale based on information he received from you?
No.
And I believe if you come to our border, you will be turned back. Do not come. Do not come.
Have you ever received a royalty payment from a company that you later oversaw money going to that company?
You know, I don't know as a fact, but I doubt it.
Well, here's the thing is, why don't you let us know?
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. It's Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. We're still on our YouTube Blitz. We are more than halfway on our path to monetization over on YouTube. So I'm asking all of our listeners and friends who are joining us on social media this morning, if you're tuned in live, to join us over at YouTube at youtube.com/AP for Liberty. We would be super grateful to see you over there. You can send us a text at 573-319-1586. Little D Trucking did just that this morning when we were talking to Vance Ginn about inflation in the economy. He texted in and said, with diesel fuel over $5 a gallon, I'm getting another 80 cents per mile on loads, which is making food costs go even higher for everybody. Good point there. Yeah, probably a big part of the cost of inflation is being spread around due to the higher cost of gas. What do you think? Love to hear from you on that one. All right, so I owe Camelia Peterson for this one, sending us this story this morning from llc.org about a survey that reveals the most annoying coworker habits. And I've already seen some of the comments from people who saw that I was going to be talking about it this morning. Over on the live stream, I saw Chris Morrill saying people who microwave fish in the break room should be waterboarded. Probably true. Another listener this morning over in the live stream said that one of the things that annoyed the hell out of them was a coworker who would play their conversation on their phone on speakerphone, turn their speakerphone on, and then left their door open and was having that conversation out for everybody to hear. That is super annoying. So there are legitimate times when speakerphones are handy, right? You turn it on speakerphone when you need to like type something or you need to write something down and you have a conversation with somebody, but ideally in private. The worst are the people who do it in public. Now, are there people who are hearing impaired and need to do that when they're in public so that they can have a conversation? Probably. Likely. Yes. But are there people who do it just to be annoying? Oh my God, yes, absolutely. There absolutely are people who do that just to be annoying. So an actual survey was done about the most annoying coworker habits. And here are some of the key findings. 83% of people in the workplace have a coworker who annoys them. Not surprising there. 21% of people have considered quitting due to annoying coworkers. Now that I don't think I've ever had happen. Now, yeah, there have there been times when you've had a coworker who was so annoying that you're just like, I would rather quit my job than work here anymore. And I know that they're not going to fire that person, but I don't think I've ever been that desperate with an annoying coworker. I've been in it. I know that I've been an annoying coworker, and I feel bad about that. I feel guilty about that because this is a great story. I actually one day got an email from a website called annoyingcoworker.com. And I don't think it exists anymore. Annoyingcoworker.com. Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's registered, but it doesn't exist. So annoyingcoworker.com was a website that existed about a dozen years ago that you could send an anonymous email to a coworker about them annoying you. And I'm pretty sure that the person who sent this email from annoyingcoworker.com to me was Bill O'Reilly. No joke, because my office at the time was right across from Bill O'Reilly. And I was just, late 20s, early 30s, happy-go-lucky guy, 10, 12 years ago when I was working at Fox. And my office, or my cubicle was across from Bill O'Reilly. So he was probably the person who could hear me like singing and humming and just like, being in a peppy mood, whatever. And so I got this email from annoyingcoworker.com and I immediately thought to myself, there's really only one person it could be. Now, were there some people who were behind me? And, yes, but those weren't the people that I think were annoyed by it just because they would sing along and hum along. They were like young people like myself.
But the only like crotchety kind of like get off my lawn type person it might have been was Bill O'Reilly. I kid you not. So, most annoying coworker, maybe me. Sorry about that, Billo, if you ever hear this. I'm sure he won't. 62% of people find it annoying when coworkers quiet quit. We've been talking about quiet quitting a lot in the last few weeks. 52% of people in this survey say that annoying coworkers prevent them from doing their best work. Now, that would be frustrating. I would definitely want to get, management involved with something like that. Greg Watson over on the live stream says that, being happy as a listed annoyance from coworkers. Yes, no, being overly happy. I remember I used to come into work at Fox in the mornings and you have to get up, I think as early as I get up here to do this show. And I remember that I learned the phrase from my friend Lainey Frost, and I guess she's a producer over at CNN now. But she goes, Austin, you're at a 10. I need you at a 2. You're at a 10. I need you at a 2. And I was just like, oh, sad. Which means, your loudness, your energy level, all of that. I would come in, I'd be like, good morning, everybody. How are we doing? It's a great day. Of course, I was young. I was fresh. I was excited. I'm working at Fox. I'm producing television. This is like, a highlight of my career. So, of course, I'm in a great mood. But I was being an annoying coworker. So I feel bad about this because I am the annoying coworker. Tali Owen says, don't talk about my bill. I like that crotchety old man. I know you and Edie Vogel, which we got to get Edie back in here. We haven't had her in quite some time. You can text the show at 573-319-1586. Somebody says we need more 10s. Yes, well, my wife is a perfect 10 to me. Annoying coworkers, another finding from this survey, 45% find it annoying when companies ask employees to return to the office after working remotely. Oh, God. Well, that just kind of reminds me of that person, the Starbucks person. Did you see this clip earlier when I played this of this person who is complaining? Here's an annoying coworker for you. If you missed this, it's definitely worth a replay anyway. This is a Starbucks employee complaining about their work. Talk about an annoying coworker. Take a listen to this.
People wonder why we need a union at Starbucks, and I am literally about to quit. Like, I don't know if I'm going to do it, but, like, I really want to. I almost walked out today, and I'm crying in the back room right now, and I almost cried on the floor. It's just, I'm like a full-time student. I get scheduled for 25 hours a week, and then on weekends they schedule me the entire day, open to close. I'm on the schedule for 8.5 hours, both Saturday and Sunday. I'm like 3.5 hours into my shift. There's so many customers, and we have 4 people on the floor all day. Only 5 people were put on the schedule, and somebody had to call out. And there are 4 people running the whole store, and there's so many customers, and there's possibly scheduled 5 people. We only have 13 people employed at this store, and there's so many customers. We don't have fair scheduling. Managers don't care about us. Our manager was supposed to come in this weekend, and he took himself off the schedule, so he wouldn't be able to be held accountable for calling out. He just literally tore down the schedule that he was scheduled on and put up a new schedule where he wasn't on the schedule. Also, he couldn't have even seen that he was scheduled in the first place because he didn't want to be held accountable for not wanting to come in.
My name is Kelvin. Welcome to Frenchy Bush. This is my Didi's website. Now I've decided to speak to you with my real voice for the first time ever to tell you about how cool Frenchy Bush is. But I've decided that this is the perfect opportunity to share with you. Frenchy Bush is a good website. You should follow us on socials. If you like Frenchies or any kind of bulldogs, me and my new brother George are going to try to make your life more fun.
Hello, I'm George. My neck isn't really thick yet, but it will be. We are so glad you're here. Please ignore my floating eyeball. It helps me spot predators who might be approaching from the sides.
Didi made Frenchy bullshit to review things that he uses on me and my brother to tell you if it's good or bullshit. Take this collar, for example. Didi really likes it. Didi said it's really handy because us Frenchies got thick necks. Need something really tough. People think Frenchies are little, but if you look at us from below, you can see we are really pretty buff. Beefcake. Yes. Look at my creamy thighs and chest. Yes. You like that?
Big brother, please focus.
Frenchy Bulls. Please follow us for more great content and read the Frenchy Bulls blog for more fun and cool stuff.
I'm a public defender.
I am a public defender.
I'm proud to be a public defender.
80% of Americans accused of a crime will get appointed a public defender.
Everybody from a speeding ticket to capital murder.
For every dollar we spend on public defenders, we spend $3 on prosecutors.
Public defenders have to do pretty much everything on their own.
Social workers, counselors.
Investigating is another piece of it.
The average public defender holds 300 cases annually.
You never feel like there's enough time.
Public defenders have health issues all the time.
A lot of people give up and say, I can't do this work anymore.
Gideon's Promise trains, mentors, and supports public defenders.
There are a lot of people who say that they would not still be public defenders, but for Gideon's Promise.
It's fueled me to continue on in this fight.
Gideon's Promise has changed the face of public defense.
People see us as troublemakers.
Good trouble only.
We don't make it easy. It should not be easy to take away someone's liberty.
Ever hear the one about the frog? Put a frog in a pot of boiling water and it'll jump right out.
Here's my resume again.
But put a frog in a pot of cool water and slowly heat it up, and that frog will boil. It's a lie. But as a metaphor for us and all that we go through as veterans,
Any real-world experience.
it's a story that rings true. We make excuses for how we feel. We push everything down. We tell ourselves the lie that it's easier to stay in that boiling water, to disconnect. And some days, maybe it is. But you've never been interested in easy. Make no mistake, reaching out is hard. Do it anyway. You're not alone. You've got this. You are not a frog.
Find resources at va.gov/reach.
Oh, good morning, all you early risers. Welcome, welcome to the Cantina crew, all our friends. It's nice to see Jamie Marie Pope is finally back. Jamie, where have you been? Trying to save the world? You can't save the world if you aren't saving yourself. You got to join the Cantina crew in the mornings on the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. Thanks so much for tuning in. You can text the show at 573-319-1586. Excuse me. Hiccups. There it is. All right. Well, I thought this article was worthy enough to share, especially on Halloween. Forget tainted candy. The scariest thing on Halloween is parked in your driveway. More American child pedestrians die on Halloween from cars than any other day of the year. You know, millions of children are going to be out in the streets tonight for Halloween. It's trick or treat, decked out in costumes. And of course, adults are going to be fretting about all the mythical dangers that children may face. When I was a kid, it was razor blades and apples. Remember that? When we were kids I was a 1981 baby. So around 1985 on to, the early 90s. When we were kids, we were told that we were going to be, that there were going to be razor blades in the apples. Well, here's a secret for you. We didn't eat the apples. So there was never any chance that we were going to eat a razor blade because the kids didn't eat the apples, right? Right. Now, this year, though, it's rainbow fentanyl in candy, right? But, while usually these fears about like narcotic spiked candies are always pretty much unfounded, the biggest danger that kids are going to face tonight in reality is going to be cars. That's because pedestrians under the age of 18 are 3 times more likely to be struck and killed by a car on Halloween than any other day of the year. And that risk grows to 10 times more likely for children aged 4 to 8 years old.
This is a study from 2019 in Pediatrics magazine. Halloween is the deadliest day of the year for child pedestrians. They showed a chart of child pedestrians being fatally struck by motor vehicles from the year 2000 to 2020. This research was pulled from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. And what's interesting is, and I might be able to pull this up for you. I'll tell you what, I'll go ahead and I'll put it on our Twitter weirdness so that you can see that what I'm talking about over there. Boom, boom, boom. So you can see this chart. Doom, doom, transition. Cha, cha, cha. Check it out. There we go. Boom. How nice is that? So you can actually see this chart. Look at that. So this is the rest of the year. And you can see, these are child traffic fatalities. That's October 31st right there. You can see that's a massive spike. So there it is. That's really the biggest danger that your kids are going to face tonight when it comes to, Halloween candy and stuff. Talia Owens over on the live stream says, oh, yeah, that's all I heard about in the 1980s, razor blades or poison in the candy. They are turning the Halloween candy gay, says Greg Watson. Very funny. Albert Krockenfeld says, nobody is paying money to put expensive drugs in the Halloween candy. I just find it impossible to believe that. I agree. Chris Morrill says, if anyone knows which house in my hood is giving out free drugs, please let me know. For research purposes only. Of course, that's Chris Morrill. You can send a text to the show at 573-319-1586. One listener texted and says, now with CBD varieties of candy being available, that might be something to look out for. I mean, possibly, although I really think that that's probably going to be a very low probability. Just don't eat candy unless it's actually in a first, package, right? Inspect your kids' candy, make sure that there's nothing in there that's dangerous. But I think that there has only ever been maybe one confirmed instance of somebody trying to slip something dangerous into kids' candy. And, it was like some kind of psychopath. But if you have a link to that story, I'd love to see it. Send me a text, 573-319-1586. I'm still following the show this morning. I'm following the story of Paul Pelosi, which is now trending on Twitter, Paul Pelosi Smollett. Apparently, a lot of people think that this attack on Nancy Pelosi's husband is a hoax, and they think that it's a faked kind of a hate crime situation. And, Glenn Greenwald is out there questioning the narrative on this one, saying that it's very possible that the instantly formed media narrative will be proven true. And that media narrative is that Paul Pelosi's attacker was some MAGA fanatic who broke in and murdered Nancy Pelosi. But he says, but right now there are so many glaring doubts and holes in that story that it just takes common sense to question this. He goes on to ask questions like, why weren't there signs of forced entry at Paul Pelosi's home? Who was the third person who opened the door for police? And here's another thing that's so weird, and this is from Politico, that Paul Pelosi was able to dial 911 himself after telling the intruder he had to go use the bathroom and then calling from there where his phone had been charging. Okay, so this is why people aren't buying into this whole narrative, the mainstream narrative. Paul Pelosi was able to dial. So this guy broke in to try and kill Nancy Pelosi. And this is Politico reporting this, okay? This is a left-wing rag. This isn't like, foxnews.com or Breitbart or anything like that. This is Politico. Paul Pelosi was able to dial 911 himself after telling the intruder that he had to go use the bathroom and then calling from there where his phone had been charging. Yeah, that's why a lot of people are questioning the narrative on this whole. What kind of home invasions include bathroom breaks? Asked my buddy Raheem Kassam on this one. I don't know, but I'll tell you, there's a lot. There was a 911 call that went out, and it was confirmed. Take a listen to this. This is Paul Pelosi's 911 call that we have. Take a listen to this audio and tell me what you think about this. Let's play it and take a listen here.
A priority 910, 2640 Broadway, cross of Scott and Normandy. I have a 14-hour copy. RP stated that there's a male in the home and that he's going to wait for his wife. RP stated that he doesn't know who the male is, but he advised that his name is David and that he is a friend. RP sounded somewhat confused. 12 over back and copy.
Units code 3 to 2640 Broadway for 14 hours.
12 over.
2640 Broadway is Nancy Pelosi's house in San Francisco. You can look it up on the Google map.
50 over, also code 3.
Everyone 12 advice insufficient units on scene 2640 Broadway. Special call medic 66, location 2640 Broadway.
Yeah, see, this is why something is fishy about this whole thing, because, the guy lets him go use the bathroom in the middle of this home invasion where he's there to kill Nancy Pelosi, but he's like, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, you can go use the bathroom, right? But Paul Pelosi, calls him a friend, because let's listen to this again. This is the dispatcher saying that Paul Pelosi knew his name and called him a friend. Continue.
Priority 910, 2640 Broadway, cross of Scott and Normandy. 14-hour copy. RP stated that there's a male in the home and that he's going to wait for his wife. RP stated that he doesn't know who the male is, but he advised that his name is David and that he is a friend. RP sounded somewhat confused. 12 over back and copy.
Units code 3 to 2640 Broadway per 14-hour.
12 over copy. 15-hour also code 3.
Everyone call advice insufficient units on scene 2640 Broadway. Special call medic 66, location 20.
I don't get it. So Paul Pelosi gets into an argument with this guy, right? And the accusations that are going around the internet is that it was his gay lover who threatened to expose him by waiting for his wife to come home. Paul says to the 911 dispatcher, apparently, that the man is his friend named David. Why are they both in their underwear, right? This is just weird. Paul Pelosi, they say, NBC News is saying that they didn't know each other, that this was a break-in, right? And so I don't know what to think about this story. But, Jimmy Kimmel's attacking Elon Musk for retweeting this, saying that he's a piece of, for promoting Paul Pelosi conspiracy theories. Right. If you don't immediately believe what NBC, MSNBC, and CNN have to say, then you're a piece of for promoting conspiracy theories. You have to immediately believe what they say on MSNBC. Immediately. I don't get it. I have no idea. But it's a weird story. I hope it doesn't go away because, quite frankly, I think it's quite fascinating. What about you? All right, we're going to go to a commercial break. But when we get back, we're going to talk about how to survive a crowd crush. Some people were killed in South Korea in a massive Halloween parade. So we're going to talk about what you can do if you ever find yourself getting in a crowd and starting to get crushed. We're going to talk about some survival tips and mechanisms that you can use to try and keep yourself safe, and even if you have a little child with you. Talk about that. And I'll give away the gift to our monthly subscribers. You've got a chance to win if you go to wakeupamericashow.com/support. You can still sign up to be a monthly supporter and win. I'm going to choose at random from my list of monthly supporters to win an item from the AP for Liberty shop. All right, cool. We'll be back on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupamericashow.com.
I enlisted as a medic to be there to help my patients, and after an injury, I found myself as a patient. I experienced post-traumatic seizures. Depression is a big one that comes along with it, PTSD. So I pursued my PhD in neuroscience and regenerative medicine. The coalition has helped fund my academic pursuits. They genuinely care about helping the vet in whatever way that they can. Through supporting the coalition, you're supporting some of the veterans that have the biggest needs.
Visit saluteheroes.org to learn more.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun. Thank you.
Had enough yet? Do fast
facts no longer matter, are lies to be encouraged instead of punished, this is not our inheritance. If truth no longer matters, we will not remain free for long. This is our generation's challenge, to defend our founders' hope that we the people could self-govern if we defend our right to get the facts. And right now, we're building the only defense of free people have, the facts, on every politician, every position they held, every statement they've made, every vote they've made, and any cash they've taken. It's the real history on those now pandering for your vote. There are hundreds of young people building our defense right now, and they need your help. We all have our passions, but as our ancestors knew, when events become so foul they threaten us all, we must stand and defend each other. Please, have our backs. Join us at votesmart.org.
What would happen if I had to pick up the phone, call 911 for one of my family members or one of my neighbors? What would I do if no one was on the other end to respond? What if there was no 911? So you can be a part of the solution.
Anybody can be a firefighter. Male, female, younger, older.
We have school teachers. We have leaders in business.
Is me, you, anyone that wants to be. There is no typical firefighter.
Halloween is coming. The festival of Samhain approaches, and your lazy butt doesn't have a Halloween costume yet? How can you pledge allegiance to the Dark Lord this year and possibly offend everyone at the same time? Visit the AP for Liberty shop and get your shirt today. The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government, and I'm here to help. So grab your government is scary tea and tell everyone at the party that you're here to help. Other great seasonal items are available as well, so don't miss out. And visit AP for Liberty Shop today. That's apforlibertyshop.com.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. It's Austin Peterson, and you're watching and listening to the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. Happy Monday. Thanks so much for tuning in. We're glad to have you here today. All right. So before we get to the final segment, do our final little chat here, I thought that it was worthwhile to have a conversation. Well, I thought it would be a good idea to go ahead and give away our monthly prize drawing. So let me just kind of explain to you what this is all about. So for those who are monthly supporters of the Wake Up America show, if you do a monthly contribution to the show, whether it's $5 a month, $10 a month, we've got $17.76 a month for our Peterson's Patriot Pledge Club, then you are entered in automatically for monthly drawings to win free merchandise from the shop. You're also granted a 20% discount from the shop as well. And when you first sign up, you get all kinds of like cool little like gifts and details and stuff like that, depending on the level of support that you have. So if you go to wakeupAmericaShow.com/support, now it's too late to win the one for today because I just made my decision on, or picked the winner for this month, but you can be entered in to win for next month. So if you go to wakeupAmericaShow.com/support, sign up to become a monthly pledger, then you are automatically entered to win all of our future prize drawings, and you get a 20% discount on the shop as a way to say thank you for the people who have helped to get the show to where it's at right now, and because you helped to have an exciting new opportunity that's coming along down the pike for the show, which I can't wait to address. Probably this week, you're going to get big news about the Wake Up America show and the future of this program. So definitely sign up to become a monthly supporter as we continue to grow and build and spread the message of economic freedom and personal liberty. Okay, well, the winner for this month, who's going to get to pick out any article of clothing that they want from the AP for Liberty shop this month is John Combest. Congratulations. Good for you. You are the winner, John Combest. Sometimes people are like, well, how do you decide who gets to win? Well, all I do is I have my Excel spreadsheet open with all the names, and I just kind of go up and down, and whatever the cursor lands on,
the name that it lands on is the one that wins. So John Combest, you are the winner. If you're not listening to us live, I will contact you, John, and let you know you'll be able to go to ap4libertyshop.com and pick out any item of clothing in the shop, any shirt that you want, could get a pair of sexy leggings if you want there. We've got some star-spangled leggings on the shop. So, and if you haven't checked out the AP for Liberty shop website, you definitely should. That's ap4libertyshop.com. Congratulations to John Combest. You are the winner of the prize this month. And if you didn't win, then better luck next month. But don't forget that we've got a bunch of holiday stuff on there as well. We're putting Christmas items on the store starting today. The Christmas shop is open, and we've got some really cool Christmas Liberty items over there. So that would be a nice little addition to anybody's Christmas tree. We've got some ornaments and different things like that as well. So thank you, and best of luck to you for next month if you are a monthly subscriber. Okay, so this was, I thought, a useful story, what to do in a potential crowd crush and how to survive it. This is from the Washington Post about an event that occurred, an unfortunate event in Seoul, South Korea, with a Halloween gathering, and it was an event known as a crowd crush that happened and caused more than 150 deaths. Experts in crowd management say that public safety officials and event organizers should be held responsible for keeping people safe at large events. But once a risky crowd situation starts to develop, there are some steps that you can take to reduce your risk and improve your chances of survival. So here are a few important tips to get you started to start thinking about this stuff. So crowd density can shift very quickly, and by the time a situation starts to feel risky, the crowd might actually already be packed too tightly for you to leave. But there are some subtle danger signs that you can look out for. If the crowd is moving and then slows, that's a sign that density is increasing. And listening to the crowd sounds is important. If you hear people complaining about discomfort and cries of distress, then it's a signal that things are getting out of control. So you should pay attention to your instincts, right? A lot of people don't do that. They don't pay attention to their instincts. They're at I paid all this money and to get to this event, and I'm going to listen to this music, and I want to go down to the front and hear the band, et cetera, et cetera. But if you hear people talking about how they're getting crushed and how they can't breathe and it's getting too tight, and you still have a chance to get out of there, you should take that opportunity. A lot of people at this event in Seoul actually said that they felt like the situation was becoming unsafe, and some of them did leave because they trusted their instincts. So once the crowd density begins to exceed about 5 people per square meter, so that's about 11 square feet, the situation is already potentially dangerous. Crowd experts have estimated that there were about 8 to 10 people per square meter in this tragedy in South Korea. Now, while it can be difficult sometimes to gauge crowd density, you're going to notice when you're starting to feel confined, and that means that it's time to leave. As soon as you start to feel like you're losing autonomy, that's the key. That's when you start to get in a situation where your movement is not your own and you're at the whim of physics. Then it becomes very difficult for you to move independently. And if you can, you should remove yourself. Keep your eyes open and look for the most obvious escape route. One of the most practical things that you can do is, of course, wear sensible shoes if you plan to be in a crowd. Staying on your feet is essential to surviving dangerous crowd conditions. People often step on each other, so wearing sturdy shoes can protect your feet and improve your stability. Situational awareness is another key. If you're in a crowded club or an indoor concert venue, you want to be aware of the exits, not just those closest to you. When there was a station nightclub fire in West Warwick, Rhode Island, they had multiple exits, but people surged toward the main exit, and it resulted in a crowd crushed that left people trapped. So the conventional knowledge is you take the exit closest to you to get out, but that doesn't work if everyone else is doing it too. So for outdoor events, you want to look at a map before you attend so you're aware of potential escape routes, side streets, and choke points like narrow streets or dead ends, things like that you want to avoid. Concerts, events with assigned seating are typically safer than standing room only or festival seating, obviously, but you want to kind of like pre-visualize before you go. Ask yourself, what if the crowds get out of control? What if a barricade collapses or a shooting occurs? What's going to be my response? Where are the exits, the fire extinguisher, or safe haven? My wife and I, we have a plan, an escape plan at home for if there's ever a home invasion. And we're talking about our fire safety plan as well. If you do that for your home, you should do it for events and things like that too. It's a good idea. So what should you do if you are in a crowd crush? It's already too late. You get there, right? People are dying around you from asphyxia. You're packed in so tightly that your lungs can't expand. One of the things that you want to do is you want to go with the flow. It's tempting to kind of try and resist the flow or the pressure of the crowd, but you're probably not going to win against the massive humanity. You want to keep your feet in a boxer-like stance with your feet apart, one foot in front of the other, and knees slightly bent, right? So a nice little boxer stance, right? 50% of your weight on one foot, 50% of your weight on the other foot, one foot slightly in front of the other, bend your knees. That's a boxer stance, right? It's important to keep your hands up, right? Once crowds get packed too tightly, your hands can be pinned by your side. Use your dominant hand to grab your opposite forearm. This creates a sort of shield in front of your chest with your elbows as a brace against other bodies. So that will help protect your chest and maintain a breathing zone. If you have a backpack, turn it forward over your chest, right? Short people are at higher risk of restricted oxygen than tall people. Obviously, don't bring children into crowds, but if that happens, put them on your shoulders or hold them and have them wrap their legs around your waist. Don't try dragging them by the arm. Shouting is a waste of energy and oxygen. Most crowd crushes are relatively quiet as people are working together to try and help each other. Stay calm. Keep your head up for maximum air. If you drop your phone or any other item, let it go. Once you bend down to pick something up, you're unlikely to get back up. If you fall or trip, try your best to get back on your feet. But if you can't, your odds of surviving are best if you go into a fetal position on your left side and protect your head. You're most vulnerable if you're on your back or your stomach, right? Okay. Every crowd is different, though. It's definitely a big tragedy, something to look out for, and something to make yourself aware of, right? It's a good reason to avoid crowds. Good argument for just staying home, says a lot of people. Yes, that's true. Okay, we got to go. Thank you so much for coming back and joining us on Monday. We're glad to have you here. We'll be back tomorrow on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. Happy Halloween!
I like shooting things, but whenever I can't shoot something, I like to cut things. My life isn't all about shooting and stabbing and cutting, though. Sometimes I have to do actual work, but when I work, I still like to have fun. And there's nothing less fun than trying to cut with a crappy knife. Thankfully, from the ancient sect of Christian knights, who also loved cutting and stabbing, comes a new implement that has received my personal blessing, the Templar knife. Like the ancient sword of Excalibur, you don't choose a Templar knife, it chooses you. You just decide what kind you want on the website first, however, and then order it online, and then it chooses you. The Templar knife comes in a variety of shapes. As a man of culture and taste, I have decided I will never use a terrible knife again. And thanks to the inspiration provided by this excellent product, I have decided to launch a new crusade against anyone using less than superior knives. Join me, brothers and sisters, by visiting uppercuttactical.com/pages/Templar-knives. That's a lot of slashes. For that, you'll need a Templar knife. For 10% off, use code AP for Liberty and join me in a quest for glory, for liberty, for Christendom, for the Templar knife. Get yours today. Fire.
Your printing company stinks. They charge you too much money and they don't love America enough. We've got the solution. Patriot Printing USA. Whether you're running for office, saving souls, or just need business cards that will get you the new job you've been looking for, Patriot Printing USA has got you covered with the best prices around. Palm cards, brochures, bumper stickers, door hangers, you name it, we've got it. PatriotPrintingUSA.com. That's PatriotPrintingUSA.com.
Want an engaging website to boost your business? You're just a click away from 5-star Fiverr talent. Hundreds of freelancer skills like web design. Head to Fiverr.com today and get something started.